Hey guys, and welcome to another video. This one will be a little bit different than the others I usually do, because this is the start of a new series that I will call something like Dev's Diary, in which I will talk about the progress that has been made regarding the community project that we are working on at the moment. So this will kind of be something like a recapture of what happened, and also at the same time something like a behind the scenes video of game development. So I hope that some of you are interested in this, and definitely leave some feedback for me so I know whether I should continue with this series. Alright, so it all started with me having the idea of doing a community project, and the first step was of course to set up the Discord channel, which is in my opinion a really convenient platform to communicate with other people, and it has lots of possibilities for organization using roles and different subchats in there. And so I decided to reach out to as many people using Unreal Engine as possible. So I made a video about the community project and also made a post about it on both Reddit and the official Unreal Engine forum. And if I'm quite honest, I would have never expected for such a great feedback. Like 1 week after I made the post, we already had like 50 members on the community project. And by now we have approximately the doubled amount. And of course, if you're working on such a large scale project, you need to keep track of organization. So what we did is on Discord, we created roles according to the areas the person wanted to work in. So we had one for programmers, then one for level designers, 3D artists, and so on. And also made separate channels or chats for them so they could talk to other people that share the same interests. And we decided to wait a little bit before we actually start working on the project so that everyone has the chance to see the posts and still join us, which is still possible, by the way. So if you think that you like the project, feel free to join us, especially if you're an animator. But really, we are happy for everyone to join us. And after we waited for like 3 days, we started discussing which genres could be possible for us and what we wanted to do actually, and came up with a list of various genres that we put as options in a voting that you were able to participate in. We made that a public voting for everyone, not only for the project members, so we can see what people actually want to play at the moment. But we said that after the voting has ended, we will consider the options with the first, second and third highest amounts of votes on it, and then decide with the members of the community project which one we were going to do, because in the end it comes down to us actually creating this project, and so we have to make sure that we are working on something that we're comfortable with and that we actually want to do. When the voting ended, we checked and discussed the 3 options, and finally decided on doing an action RPG, basically because of 4 main reasons. Firstly, because it won the voting, so most people want to see an action RPG, and if we're going to publish the game, that's a good thing to know. Secondly, we have a lot of talented story writers on the team, and an action RPG is, at least in my opinion, the best genre for people to incorporate a really deep and complex story. Also, what an RPG offers is the ability to separate work, because it's a really large scale project, and you can have people working on different parts of the game simultaneously. So one doing a village somewhere in the mountains, while others work on a completely different area, which is a little bit more difficult when you talk about smaller genres like a platform or something. And the last reason was, of course, that we also really liked action RPGs, and so we could well imagine to do such a game. Of course, we are aware of the fact that an action RPG is probably one of the most difficult genres to do, and it requires a lot of skill in both programming and art. But due to the fact that we had already like 75 people or so working on the project, we felt confident enough to complete the project. After we did that, we also had to give an answer to several important questions. For example, what the style of the game should look like and its setting. In the end, we decided on a realistic style for a medieval fantasy themed game. All of this was done with votings so that everyone could participate and let us know about his or her opinion. And so we separated the Discord into more specific sub-channels for all of the tasks that we already knew were going to be in there. So for example, audio, the creation of the world, designing content, and the various programming systems like inventories, quest systems, and so on. So we made different categories for that and made something like a spreadsheet where everyone could enter in which area he or she wanted to work in. Then we created new roles for that and assigned them. And while all of this was happening, we were slowly facing the question of how to work on the same project simultaneously. So the topic source control arose, and we were considering Perforce at the beginning, but we had to find out that it's only free if you're working with 5 members or something like that. So that wasn't really possible for us. But fortunately, project member Neville already knew a lot about source control and actually owns a server. So what he did is set up a whole repository for us using the program Tortoise SVN. And he also set up a wiki where he published a guide on how you can get access to the source control, so that when anyone was asking how to participate in the actual project and work on that, we could just give a link to the guide, they could follow it and have the same project. Now already a lot of work was separated, but if you want to know what you will have in your game, you first need at least a rough story idea. So we had quite a lot of discussions about main story concepts, and we had several people entering their ideas. In the end, we decided on one that we really liked and that was already well thought of and complex. But what we had to notice is that there were too many things that we would like to change, and what I can really understand though is that the author wasn't really fine with that, obviously because it was his story and he wanted to keep it like that, which again is something I can completely understand, but if we are working in a team like that, we need to be able to change things. The majority agrees on that. And so we came up with a new idea that only has some really slight influences from the original idea, but I'm not going to spoil what this is about, so that you can actually see it when you play our demo. My brother and I created a document about the background story of several characters and what happened before the story takes place. And also we agreed on creating a demo, so just the first 2 chapters of the finished game, and all of our efforts are currently used on creating that demo that we are going to publish for free and use to maybe start a Kickstarter campaign to turn this into a real game. And what we did is we wrote up a script for everything that should happen in the demo, the characters that you're going to meet, which places you can go to, and what you need to do there. Again, later we felt this was a really smart thing to do, so every time someone else joined us, we could just send them the demo script and they read through it in like 5 minutes and knew exactly what was going on in the project, what it will be about, and what other things that we need. And then we started to sketch out the places that you will be able to discover. On the one hand, we knew that there will be a village called Lignum with houses that are built on trees, and it will be located in a big forest surrounded by nature. In general, the atmosphere there will be extremely relaxed. And so the member Avaton already created some assets for the houses, trees and bridges connecting them. The second village in the demo will be a small fisher village that the protagonist lives in. So we already had people creating assets for that as well. Little boats, a marketplace, houses, and already people did basic sketches and concepts of how the village could look like in 3D. Also, what you of course need is concept art, especially for characters. That was really important for us. And the first character concepts were created by Jackson, who really did an awesome job on like already 3 or 4 different characters that he made. So we've got Jaina, a little girl living in the treehouse village Lignum that you're going to be able to play when starting the demo. Then there is Rowan, a sorcerer and a keeper of peace in the world that the main character is going to meet. And Galain, who is the blacksmith of the Fisher Village and the father of the main character, who also has a background story that will play a significant role in the game, but I'm not going to spoil that as well. So after we had that kind of rough black and white sketches of how the characters will look like, the user Sino started to work on a character model for Rowan first, because that was the first concept art that we had. And we actually had another concept artist called Kat, who made various sketches of Jaina's outfit, gave them to us so that we had a little discussion of what we liked best about the outfits and how that will evolve when she gets older. Also, while this was made, the audio people did an awesome job on creating ambient and battle music that will be played in the background now. Music for Lignum really suits the atmosphere of the village in my opinion. It's extremely relaxed and it sounds like everything is perfectly fine there. But of course, the programmers were also quite busy. They worked on all of the different systems that we had. Our first main focus was creating a really basic combat system, because that will be one of the main focuses of the game. And so we had to pay a lot of attention to that. First things we worried about were basic combos that you can do when pressing the light attack button multiple times, or you can dodge and then attack, or jump and perform an attack in the air. Also, during that, other people worked on creating enemies that are actually quite advanced already. And we worried about hit detection, so casting traces from the weapon to see if it actually hits something. and if it does, you will apply damage to it. And the same thing works with enemies as well. They apply damage to you if they hit you. After I helped a bit with the combo system, I decided to focus a little bit more on the item and inventory setup and help the people there. So first, of course, we had to decide on what kind of inventory we wanted to have. In the end, it came down to a slot-based inventory system with an unlimited amount of slots, but you will have a weight cap. So if you carry too many items, you will be slowed down. Also, we wanted to have a 3D preview of our character when seeing the inventory, so that when you equipped a weapon later, you will actually see it updating instantly. And with all of that knowledge about what the system should look like, I made a very basic UI concept sketch for that, also with some annotations about what the things will actually do. Then we had a discussion about how to do the item setup. So there are basically two main ways you can do it. Either you do it just with classes inheriting from each other and having all of the attributes there, or you go for a data table approach, which is much easier to organize, but then you will worry about how you can actually set up the logic. In the end, we came up with something like a way in between. So you have a data table for all of the generic variables you know that every class will have. Some things like name, icon, description, and so on. Then you have more specific data tables for the subclasses. For example, equipments, consumables, scriptures, and such stuff. And then you have classes with all of the logic in them. And in the data tables, you link the information of the item with the logic that should be executed when they are used. Right, so I made that item system, and actually the user mission was the kind to put a basic guide on the wiki, so that later on when people want to add items, they can just have a look at the wiki and see how they can actually add items without any programming that they have to do then. Also, I then implemented the inventory system that I made a basic sketch of, and slightly different than in my series, I did it with an actor component, so that you can also give an inventory to, for example, merchants or enemies if they drop any items. Another thing that we were able to do once we had the basic storyline sketched out was to discuss a possible title of our game. So we gathered lots of suggestions that were posted, and because we were unable to decide on which we liked best, we did another voting. This time we did 2 straw polls, one for the name of the series. So if we ever decide on making a second game that would also have the series name, but another episode name, which was the second voting. And in the end, the result was that the series name will be Crydia, which is supposed to be the name of the world the story takes place in. And the episode name will be Fragments of Chaos, which is of course related to the story that I'm not going to spoil here. And yeah, that's what we've got so far. Currently we are restructuring and reworking parts of the world with assets of better quality, and one of our level designers called Kushi is working on our first kind of dungeon that will be in the game. It's a basic cave at the seaside that you will be able to explore, and that will feature a boss fight at the end. Alright, I hope I was able to give you a little insight into what's going on at the moment. And please tell me if you want to hear more about the project and if you like that kind of video style I went for this time. See you in the next video.